a mom, she's a social media influencer, a content creator, a writer, and a very devoted Muslim, and now the proud author of Oyinbo Karimu. I'm talking about Oyinbo Karimu herself, Morikoko. Welcome to Rubbing Minds.
Hi, Izzy. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, growing up, and we'd always see people write about their lives when they're 60, 70. It becomes like a project, like, okay, I'm soon going to die. Let me write about my story. Let me share my experience and give some wisdom. But as a young mom, wife, content creator, why did you decide to write a book about your life, not waiting till you were old and gray?
Well, first of all, because the times are changing, and then also I'm a big believer in if you have a story to tell, you should tell it because, like I always say, you never know who you are inspiring by living your authentic self. Because at the end of the day, I've come to realize that a lot of the things that we experience, other people are experiencing it too. But the fear of will I be cancelled if I do this? The fear of the unknown basically just keeps people from talking. And so now I'm an advocate of changing that narrative. If you have a story to tell or to share it because you never know who you're going to be helping. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's how the human community is supposed to be living.
So that story and desire to inspire, to uplift the next generation. Now, it's an interesting title, Oyinbo Karimu, and I know that Karimu is, or Karimu. Karimu is the name of a street in a rural area of Surulere, the Odrelegba area, where you grew up. How did that shape your life growing up in Karimu?
So, first of all, the idea behind this book is not to say that Karimu is a bad place or Ojolegba is a bad place. It's just growing up there, as a child, I've always felt like there was more for me outside of this community because that circle has a way of locking you in and making you think that that is all there is to your world, especially since there weren't like a lot of role models around. To understand? So, but as a child, I knew that there was more for me outside of here. I always saw the big picture. How I was going to live, I did not know, but I always knew. So the first was my belief, my mindset, which then also um encouraged me to write this book because then it's not everybody who knows. So now I'm just hoping that somebody will read it and then think that if I could do it, then anybody can.
And whatever the environment, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
you can
really
aspire
matter
to be whatever you want to be in life. Now, the book touches on things like motherhood, finding your personal person, about career, purpose, and of course, your devotion to God through your religion. Islam comes through in that. Why did you decide to share all these aspects of your life? Some people say, you know what, I can tell you about career and purpose, but when it comes to my childhood or my motherhood or my marriage, that's out of bounds.
It's just, what's the purpose of telling a story if you're not going to tell the whole story? And I understand I understand if you want to keep certain aspects of your life away from the world. It's being vulnerable is not a very easy thing because even at the end of the day, there were some things that I was about to write and then it took so much courage. But like I said, I'm a big believer of I've made peace with whatever it is that happened, first of all. So it made it easy. And so, like I said, I'm a big believer of if you have a story to tell, you tell it authentically, right? So I just thought if I were going to share a certain part, I might as well just have done that on my Instagram because every time from time to time, but I wanted an all-encompassing medium, where everybody has friends, everybody has gone through one thing or the other with family. A lot of women have had children. So whatever it is that you think that you might be going through, I feel like there's a segment or a section for you in it. And that's the purpose of the book, so that you can just find some sort of semblance in it and maybe some sort of just that solidarity to know that these things happen. It's just life, basically.
That that took a lot of courage. And I wonder what sort of support you received during the writing process. Like you said, there are times you were holding yourself back, you're not so sure. Because when you write a story about your life, you inadvertently expose other people in your life, your husband, your mother, your friends, your colleagues, your family. Were you able to get their support, their blessing to sort of bear yourself in that book?
Ha, blessing. So I'm trying to pick my words so that it doesn't come off as somehow. But if there's anything that I've come to realize in life is that you don't need anybody to go ahead or permission to live your authentic self, right? At the end of the day, people will either catch up or they will let go of you, regardless of whatever the outcome is. Everything is okay. But if you're wondering whether I got support, I got a whole lot of support. My husband, he was always there. My mom, she was always there. Because, to live your truth as a mom of two toddlers, you need all the support that you can get. So that I had from my family. But whether go ahead, asking for permission, that one was between my God and I. He gave me the go ahead. He gave me the words. Like I keep even always saying, this book is God's project, because I remember when I finally decided that I was going to write the book, I knew what I was going to write. I knew what I was going to talk about. But then knowing what you want to write is different. Then actually being able to put the pieces together is another different thing entirely. So then I remember thinking, do I actually have so much words to type to be able to form an actual book? That was one of my major worries. But then every time I opened my laptop, the words just kept on pouring out. So that was my sign that God is, because the other day I was reading during the final rounds of edits. I was reading the book, and even I was inspired. I was like, wait, did I actually write this? So that was the go ahead that I feel like I needed from God. And then I had the support of my family, and every other thing is just, excuse me, it's just secondary.
So you say you read the book and you were even inspiring yourself. Can you share some of the inspiring moments that have come to shape Oyinbo Karimu?
Wait, what do you mean inspiring moments?
It could be inspiring moments of your childhood or of something you went through in motherhood, something that you've read and has inspired you in the book.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an example now. There was an incident that, like I was telling a couple of people the other day, that happened to me in uni, right? And it was so turbulent. It made me so sad. I was always crying up until the point where I would just sleep off on my praying mat and stuff like that. But easy now, if you ask me to tell you what that issue was, I can't. And it's not because I don't want to tell you. It's because I genuinely don't remember. And so when I was writing that in the book, I referenced it to the point of which a lot of times your problems aren't as big as your mind is making it to be, right? Because imagine something that was making me cry. I remember that I was crying, but what the problem was, I don't remember. If it was that big of a deal, I would remember where it was. So from that, even I had been able to inspire myself to understand that whatever comes, it'll pass. I just have to be strong enough to know. I just have to be present enough to not let my mind play tricks on me and just seeing the problem for what it is. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times it's us just overthinking. Most of the times, I think, in my opinion, in my experience, the problems aren't really that big of a problem. And this is not to trivialize whatever anybody is going through. I'm just saying most of our problems are minor. So I was reading that part of the book the other day and I was like, okay, wisdom, I see you. So that's what I was trying to say, where even I was reading it and a part of me was inspired.
I think I can relate to that because in everything you can choose to see the glass full or as the glass empty.
Yeah.
You can choose to see that silver lining, even when it feels like your world has come crashing down.
Yes.
Now I want us to look at friendships because you referenced, where you were growing up, and you said it's not to say that Karimu Street is a bad place. So were there friendships that have endured the time from your childhood, and can you tell us about that?
Quite a number of them. And then, life happened. Some of us had to go different paths. Some people boarding school. Some people the friendship cut off, and then we connected along the line. So yeah, some friendships have been able to, even though there was pauses in the middle. And I'm still I remember the other time I was searching for one of my friends' name on the internet because I'm like, I need to find this girl. So I'm still hopeful for, I don't know, the connection that might be in the future. But yeah, some friends definitely stood the test of time.
Okay, now let's move to motherhood. Can you give us just whet our appetite? What can we expect? Because motherhood as a mother, I know, is so multifaceted, whether it's the pregnancy period or childbirth, or as you said, raising toddlers. Like you ask most parents and they say they're just winging it. So share something from the book with us.
Well, I honestly am just winging it. But in the book, like I said, this book is the most vulnerable that I've been. And then one profound thing that I spoke on about motherhood that I don't think I've read in any book, because but a lot of moms are speaking about it now, but I don't think I've read it in any book, is the issue of breastfeeding. I'm just saying it as an example to let you know how in depth that I went according to the experiences that I've had. Because you think, oh, when you give birth, it's just going to be normal for you. Like breastfeeding is a normal thing. You go for your antenatal, you see breast milk is best milk. But then nobody tells you that there's a possibility that after your baby comes, there's no breast milk. Nobody, even in the antenatal, sometimes they leave it out. So then I'm there expecting to breastfeed my baby because everybody has told me breast milk is best milk, and then the milk is not coming out. And then the nurses are asking me, should I give this baby formula? I'm like, no, doctor said breast milk. And then what that happens is if the baby doesn't eat during the first hours of life, they start to have a low sugar, which is not healthy for the baby. So at the end of the day, you're giving the baby formula and then you're feeling guilty when you're just supposed to be enjoying, the process of birth to life that just happened. So I put in the book, and I'm not saying don't breastfeed your baby. I did mine, but I'm just saying it's not all the time what they tell you to be. So I just say a lot of things that is as it is and as it happened for me.
Okay, you're out there in the media, the work you do as a content creator, a social media influencer, a writer, now an author, and one thing you can't take away is love and relationships, and that's something you delve in the book, finding your personal person. How did you find your personal person?
When you say how, what do you mean how? How did me and my husband met?
Yes.
Well, remember through my family friend. Well, one of those, I call her my cousins. One of those people where you're so close, but then you start to call each other cousins, but then you aren't actually cousins. Yes. Yeah. So she was serving and he was serving, and then they met, they became friends, and then we went to visit her friend, and then the rest is history.
Like just like that, you just met, and then how did you know it was the one? How did you nurture that from friendship all the way to marriage and now kids?
We dated, collected numbers, talked from time to time, and then I feel like when you know, you just know, and I just knew, and here we are today.
Well, some expose. You did work together. So what was that like, working and dating the boss?
Don't say it like that.
But he was your employer.
Yeah.
And you were serving. You're doing NYSC.
So because I've told you my secrets now, you want to use it against me. No, when you say working and dating the boss, you say it like I went to the office and then I started dating the boss. So we were already an item before I started working, with the company. Do you understand?
Yeah. So how did you manage the dynamics? Because I'm sure there are some people that did not have that context.
Well, we spoke about it, about the whole kind of played the scenario out. And when it was time to work, we worked. And when it was time to play, we played. We were able to strike a balance. We were serious about it. I feel like if you put your mind into, and then when we saw that it was not what it was supposed to be again, I had to work somewhere else. And yeah.
Okay. I think it's good that you clarified that you were already dating before.
Oh, we were even friends self before the dating, before the working. So it was, I did not go to the office to date the boss.
And it didn't have anything to do with you being employed because you are suitably qualified.
No, and even because he had to, one of the reasons why I had to step in was because the business was still budding at the time, and he had to go to school to do his master's. So he kind of needed family on ground. So I also had to step in to do that. So that's one of the reasons again why I chose to work there.
Now let's move to another thing you explored in the book, which is your purpose, your career. While I was introducing you, I read out different things because you have different facets. Your background is in mass communication. You're an author, social media influencer, content creator. I'm a mom, and now you're a chef. So growing up, you're always told to be that one thing. How have you been able to embrace your multi-potentiality?
I think I surrendered. If if that doesn't sound too deep, I just surrendered because in your head, where in your head you know that there's so much you can do. And then there's this is it an adage or a proverb? Jack of everything, master of none, you know. But then along the line, and that's why it's always good to read. And I'm an advocate of good books will literally change your life. Whether it's books, whether it's podcasts, something that is sharpening your mind, new set of information every day. Because then I now realized that the adage was cut short. So Jack of all trade, master of none is better than master of one. Because the fear is that if you do everything together, you won't be good at one thing. But then there's some of us who you can't just do one thing. I started out as creating comical content, but then I would go somewhere and then they would refer to me as a skit maker. I was a skit maker and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a skit maker. But then I just felt like there was more. So at the time where my skit making career was a burden, I said that I was going to stop it, which some might have considered as a career suicide because I didn't like the conditioning that it was giving my mind. You understand? And then in stopping that, I was able to have a clearer mind, to be more creative, to do more things. And I feel like if I was still vividly, actively, touring this kid path alone, I wouldn't have written this book. I wouldn't have gone to culinary school. I wouldn't have been an all-round creative that I am now. But I just knew that there was more in store for me. So I think the summary is when you know, you just know. And if you know, surrender. There's no point fighting it because a lot of people is like, oh, everybody expects me to be like this. Oh, everybody expects me to do this. But what are you supposed to do? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So I just surrendered and just allowed life do its thing.
Mm. And in surrendering, you've been able to explore different facets of this creative career. Now, I know that something that comes through in the book is your devotion to God. How has that shaped you as a person?
It's everything I know. Yeah, the relationship with God, my devotion to God, my connection to God. I've known Him since I've had sense. And I didn't know that now, but I now know that the reason that I knew Him then was because of the kind of life that He was he had in plan for me. God is everything I know. God guides almost everything I do. And I say almost because at the end of the day, I'm still human. I can only try my best. But like the roots, the base, the the foundation of my life, of the trajectory of my life, is as a result of the relationship that I have with God.
Mm. You've touched on several things in this book, and I do think that you bearing yourself gives it a lot of credibility because it's one thing to tell people how to live their lives, another thing to show your experience and let people draw inspiration from it. At any point, did you feel like I shouldn't be writing this book? Did you encounter any setbacks, and what kept you going?
There was never a time where I felt like I shouldn't be writing this because it was a long time coming. And if anything, every time there was always signs along the way. Like one time I was writing because I wrote the book within the span of 2 years. So it was when I was writing the book, my husband asked me for a certificate. So in the process of looking for it for him, I found a journal that I've had, like an 11-year-old journal. So I'm like, that feeling when you just go through your journal. So I'm like, oh, let me just feel good and let me see some of the things that I wrote. And then I saw there that I said I was going to be an author, and I wrote that 11 years ago. And I write like short articles in the journal, and then beside it, I would just put author and my name. So if anything, it was just signs along the way that I'm supposed to be doing this right now. So there was actually never a time where I felt like there were times where I was exhausted because I had to do so much at the same time. But there was never a time where I felt like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this.
Hmm.
No.
And I think finally, what's next after writing the book? Are we expecting you to go on the road? How can people get copies? Is it only available in Nigeria? Where? Just let us know what next now that the book is out.
Well, you can get the book everywhere that you get your books in Nigeria. Roving Heights, most especially the book nooks, or just your bookstores in Nigeria. And then if you're outside of Nigeria, you can get it on Amazon. If you don't like to read paperbacks, we have the e-versions. The audiobook is in the works. We're supposed to release it, but some technical issues. So that should be coming up in like a few weeks, maybe a few tours here and there. And I'm just hopeful. I don't know what's next. I didn't know I was going to write this book when I started writing it. So like I said, I surrender.
On that note, I'll just say congratulations, Miriam Bakre,
Thank
aka
you.
Morikoko,
Thank you,
and all
Izzy.
the best with Oyinbo
Karimu.
Karimu.
Thank you so much.
Wanna get with you. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and